So I was thinking the other day, why is it that guys are so easily addicted to watching pickup and dating videos? Now, ultimately, the whole purpose of watching these videos is to essentially give you guys that inspiration to see what's possible, to show you that you can be wherever you are in life, whatever level of social skills that you've got, you can go out and you can speak to strangers and you can have conversations, and particularly with women that you're attracted to and you like, you can ask them for phone numbers, and believe it or not, even if you're not that socially confident, you can of course still get results. But once guys kind of at least come to that realization, or they've watched enough content that tells them and shows them what is possible, why do they continue to carry on watching it? Now, don't get me wrong, it does mean that, you know, the dating coaches, when they're putting out the content, they've obviously then got that following and people want to carry on seeing what's possible. But is there a deeper route to it? And this is just something I'm going to explore, because this was also a conversation, or part of a conversation, that I had with a client the other week when we were walking around in London, and he was asking me about the addiction side to doing pickup. Now, like with any kind of addiction with like drugs, alcohol and sex, there is a euphoric high with constantly speaking to people. And that comes from that kind of like what was the fear of the unknown to suddenly now being this kind of like feeling of success. It becomes like this weird euphoric feeling of not knowing what's going to happen, but just how exciting and liberating it is to be able to go out and do it. Now, most guys tend to get to that particular point after some period of time. Sometimes it can be after a couple of approaches, and by approaches I mean cold approaches, going out and speaking to strangers, and sometimes it could be after dozens or 100 or so. It really does depend though where a guy is socially, and you know how much of a hurdle he needs to overcome to actually get to a place where he can comfortably speak to people. But there does become a point where it really is euphoric, and then you just want to keep doing it and doing it. And it's where like the guys who have been cold approaching, and I'll kind of reference the pickup scene in this example, is that where they have done it for so long and it then becomes the only thing that they know, they can just constantly just keep approaching and they constantly keep chasing that high. And the downside is that they're not actually learning how to sustain relationships with people. All they're doing is learning and mastering that 5-minute interaction, how to obviously build attraction and seduce someone, and it not really being anything more than maybe that sort of first or second date or after they've misbehaved with someone. So that is kind of where there is an addiction with at least doing the approaching. But what about on the aspect of video content? Well, I've had this theory for a long period of time that for guys who like overly watching these infill videos, especially if they maybe aren't going out and working on their dating life, that maybe there is an element of voyeurism there, that they live their dating life through watching other people live out their dating life. There we go. Sorry, I just had to, I felt my nose needed to be blown then. So they're actually then watching these videos and they're living out their dating life through other people. And that is kind of dangerous because they're not developing any particular experiences for themselves, and they're kind of trusting what they're seeing on camera is essentially gospel for how the world works. And although there might be some truth in that, everyone's experience though is very different. And a bit like with watching, content online that's over 18, it's very easy to then use that as the way to get that euphoric high, the same as going out and approaching. Now, I would much prefer that guys go out and actually meet people, and depending on what your preferences with dating, maybe you're looking to actually go out and just have a bit of fun, or perhaps you are genuinely looking to have a relationship and settle down with someone. Now, either of them is absolutely fine. It's certainly not my place to judge and critique. And a lot of guys who do come into the industry, they tend to sort of go from like one to the other and then back again. And, you know, and they kind of ricochet back and forth, really just depending on where they are at in life and maybe the kind of experience that they need. But that's the thing, they need experience, and you're not going to get that if you're just watching videos online of other people, you know, doing approaching, going on dates or flirting and stuff. And it kind of reminds me of even years ago when like the pickup scene was really, really big, and guys were genuinely just like I think there was probably more guys watching coaches online than they were actually going out. And there was a danger that I remember that the guys would then start asking like, oh, can you do more? Can you show us more on camera? And for some coaches, definitely in the past, that even I refused to do work with, but they would start filming things that really should not have been allowed. Where maybe they would like, maybe not show something on camera, but they would like record audios from them misbehaving with girls. But what about the coaches? Now, they're obviously getting all these questions coming in from guys saying like, oh, can you show us more? Can you do more? Can you show us receipts that you're actually like being with these women and having all this sort of stuff happen? And you know, that is where I've sort of said to coaches, like, be very, very careful with what these guys are demanding, because, you know, this is just stuff that they shouldn't be turning to you for. And in fact, this is where they really need to kind of work on their addictions and have that realization that maybe they are kind of going into an extreme territory here. But there are coaches out there, unfortunately, who I would sort of deem as maybe a bit more exhibitionist, and they like to kind of show off that they are dating and sleeping with women. It's kind of their way of getting that euphoric kick, that validation of how good of a man they potentially are. But I would also say that there is a danger for the coaches in that euphoric trap and the addiction to making video content, as well as the guys who are watching it. And it's that over addiction that can essentially lead to a guy's demise, where they will literally sacrifice everything possible for this chase, for this, again, euphoric high that they could be potentially getting. So where am I going with this video? Well, I just want you to recognize, first of all, like with the content that you've watched online of dating coaches, have you consumed enough content that just shows you what is possible if you go out there? If you want to go and speak to someone, do you now have that belief that you can do it? Or that it is just genuinely possible, that if you were to leave your house right now, could you go and speak to someone? Not necessarily saying that you would be successful, but could you do it? Now, if the answer is yes, then I would already say then you don't really need to be watching any more dating videos. So that would maybe be like the one tick. Now, another thing maybe to consider is, have you consumed enough content that at least gives you an idea of what things you could say in a conversation with a complete stranger? If the answer is yes, then definitely you need to be going out and maybe limiting or completely stopping the amount of like dating video content that you need to be watching. Again, because like there'll be a point, and I can honestly say this after all the years with filming, that you do get to a point where you are just watching the same thing over and over again. And trust me when I say I've filmed tens of thousands of approaches over the years, privately and for YouTube. And everyone really does just have the same conversations after a while. There is nothing special. There's nothing really new that gets picked up. If anything, you just have an idea of the kind of topics maybe that people have, or just how to understand that creativity or improv in the moment because of they identified how someone looks, or maybe it's something cultural that they could just sort of pick up on and be like, oh, okay, well, I've noticed this about you and that. So there really isn't then that much more that you can learn from a conversation until you go out and learn to work on your own creativity and your own improv to get to that point that you can be having nice, free-flowing conversations with people. And the third point that I nearly forgot about then is that if maybe you have come to the realization that you can't go out on your own to be doing approaching, or maybe you've tried the conversation skills and techniques in the videos that you've watched and you're still struggling, have you now come to the decision of working with a coach or an expert or not? Now, if you have come to that conclusion that, right, I've decided I can't do this on my own, I need my hand held, and now I need to go to an expert, then that's also a point when you can stop watching the videos, because I would assume by that point as well, you've probably then watched a particular coach's content, whether it be mine or someone else's, but you've then come to that conclusion that now is the time that I need to go and get help. And that is then absolutely fine. And if you're not quite sure, maybe you're shopping around for a coach, then by all means do carry on watching the videos, but don't watch them for the sake of like, oh, I want to see how he's talking to this girl and I wonder if he slept with her. I wonder if he went on a date with her. You don't need to worry about that level of pursuit. What you should be thinking about is, right, has that coach got the right personality or the right style of coaching that suits me, that I can learn from and that I can benefit from? Because again, ultimately, the whole point in you watching these videos online, whether it be content, again, that I've filmed with other coaches or it's videos that I've made for my channel, the whole point is just to give you that motivation to go out and do stuff on your own. Because a guy who's got a very successful dating life, he does not need to be watching dating videos. He should be going out and just living his life and doing it in a way that he wants and just getting on with things. And I can assure you, especially with how long dating videos are these days, that I've filmed either recently or probably even in like the past decade or so, you know, they're not short videos. You're probably losing half of your life or half of your days even with watching them rather than going out and doing something that could be just so much better for you, whether it be doing cold approaching today or networking and meeting people for work, or even going out to places that you would like to develop a hobby in and actually making friends through that and learning some life skills that could be just overly way more beneficial for you. So this isn't necessarily then a video of me telling you off or telling you what's right or wrong, but I just want you to be aware of certain limitations that you need to be putting into place or practice even, rather than, you know, a year down the line, you're still watching the same dating coach. You're still talking about dating with the same terminology and the same lingo, and your dating life hasn't really progressed any further than maybe what it is at now. I want you to have a successful dating life, and that does mean guys need to move on from the industry once they have developed the skills that they need to be able to go out and do it on their own. So my name is Dan. This is my channel, That Danxiety Guy. I have worked in the dating industry for the last 16 years of my life. So I've practically just lived my dating life through this industry because I got into it when I was 21 years old. And prior to it, I was single. I'd never been in a relationship. I'd never kissed a girl and whatnot. And because of being introduced to the world of pickup at the time, and when this is going back to 2009, I learned all of this life skills that I needed to actually be more confident, have conversations with people, and let alone develop all of the skills that I needed to be able to interact with women so I could be happy and I could date and I could have relationships. And I've had an amazing 16 years because of it. And that's why I've got this channel and why I really want to help you as well. But that does mean though, that at some point you have to come off your computer, you have to leave your bedroom, and then you have to go out into the world and live your life to the fullest, because I can assure you, you are not going to be having the same experiences if you are just sitting and watching dating coaches all day long, rather than having some amazing experiences with women out there and some incredible conversations, as well as just meeting people and connecting with people, which really is what the skill of cold approaching offers, that ability to be able to speak to people. And however much there might be that addiction to doing it, that again, that euphoric feeling that you get from, you know, getting either some success or maybe even feeling rejection, or just from speaking to someone that's so beautiful that you just feel almost, I don't know if inspired is probably the right word, but you just feel so good about yourself. You still feel so tranquil and at peace with being able to speak to someone and not feeling so afraid at doing it. That is the euphoric feeling that you should be chasing, rather than watching dating videos all the time and just getting addicted to them and and not really progressing anything further than that. So I really hope that you like this video. If you can, please, I'd love it if you'd like the video. Subscribe to my channel as well. It really helps me to reach out to more men if I possibly can. And ultimately, I really want to make a difference to guys. I want guys to be working on their cold approaching, or just working on their dating lives, I suppose, in general, in a way that is so much more holistic and removes all this addictive behavior, so that they can live life in a way that means that, you know, they're not walking away from like friends, family and work. They're not sacrificing all these things literally just for the pursuit of women. I want you to have a very holistic lifestyle going on, and I want it to be somewhat balanced as well. And there are ways in how that can be done, which I do kind of offer in my coaching. So if you are interested, I'd love to hear from you, and how maybe either I can help you, or maybe even other dating coaches can help you with going out there, learning to talk to people, overcoming your shyness or social anxiety, and getting yourself to a place where you don't need to watch any more dating videos.